"Listen to me very carefully," the real estate agent said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that barely rose above the drumming of the relentless Pacific Northwest rain against the office window. He was a small man, sweating profusely despite the chill in the room. "The price isn't a typo. It's practically free. But in the state of Washington, I am legally obligated to disclose certain histories." Elias leaned forward, his knuckles white where he gripped his denim jacket. Beside him, his younger sister, Sarah, looked pale and exhausted. Their mother was waiting in the car outside, coughing that dry, rattling cough that had become the soundtrack to their lives for the past year. They were drowning in medical debt. They didn't have the luxury of being choosy. "Histories?" Elias prompted, his voice tight. The agent swallowed hard, his eyes darting toward the door as if expecting someone to burst in. "The locals down in Blackwood Creek call it the Harrow House. They say it doesn't like tenants. They say it keeps things." "You mean it's haunted?" Sarah said, her voice flat. After 6 months of sleeping on friends' couches and cheap motels, a ghost seemed preferable to homelessness. The agent didn't smile. This man looked like he was about to be sick. "I don't use that word. I just say that nobody has lasted more than 9 days in 20 years. If you sign this lease, you are on your own. The town police, they don't like going up that driveway after dark." "We'll take it," Elias said. Necessity had burned away his capacity for fear. The Harrow House stood isolated at the end of a winding gravel road choked by towering, moss-draped pines. It was a Victorian monstrosity, painted a peeling shade of dried blood red, its high windows looking like clouded, cataract eyes staring blindly into the overcast sky. It was too big, too silent, and smelled faintly of stagnant water and ozone. Moving in took less than a day. They had so little. They set their mother up in the main floor master bedroom to avoid the stairs. Elias took the room at the head of the second floor landing, and Sarah took the one adjacent. There was one room they didn't use. At the far end of the upstairs corridor was a nursery. The door didn't just have a broken lock. The wood around the knob was splintered inward, as if something powerful had once smashed its way out. The air inside that room was 20 degrees colder than the rest of the house, and stepping across the threshold elicited an immediate, primal urge to vomit. They closed the door and propped a heavy antique wardrobe against it. "Just drafty old architecture," Elias lied to his mother that first night as he brought her soup. "It feels hungry, Eli," she whispered, her eyes clouded with fever. "This house feels terribly hungry." The terror didn't wait a week. It began that very first night. Elias was snapped awake at 3:17 a.m. by a vibration. The floorboards beneath his bed were trembling. Then it began. Shh, clank. Shh, clank. It came from the attic space directly over his head, the sound of a massive, rusted iron chain being dragged slowly across rough wood. It was jerky, accompanied by a soft, sibilant wheezing sound, like something with crushed lungs trying to breathe. Elias grabbed a heavy brass lamp and rushed into the hall to find Sarah already there, paralyzed. The ceiling groaned as the attic hatch bowed downward, just an inch under a significant weight. Then, silence. The next day, Elias drove into town for help. The moment he mentioned the address at the local hardware store, the cashier went pale. "We don't service the Harrow place," the man stammered. "You get out of here. Take your bad air with you." By the third night, the wardrobe in front of the nursery door had been moved 3 inches. That night, the dragging didn't stay in the attic. Sarah woke to the sound of the hatch screeching open. Thud. A heavy weight dropped onto the landing. Shh, clank. Shh, clank. The weight moved down the stairs toward their mother's room. Elias burst out of his room, roaring and throwing his lamp down the stairwell. The hallway below was empty, but the front door was standing wide open to the rainy night, swinging gently in the wind. By day 4, their mother was delirious, begging someone to take the chain off. Elias, driven to a manic edge, decided to fight back. He went to a farm supply store 2 towns over and bought a steel jaw bear trap. He rigged it at the top of the stairs, covering it with a throw rug, and ran a tripwire across the attic hatch. At 2 a.m., the tripwire snapped. The hatch slammed open. Thud. The dragging began, faster and angrier. A deafening metallic crunch was followed by a shriek of pure agony. Elias rushed out with a flashlight. The trap had clamped shut around a monstrous rat, the size of a small terrier, covered in weeping sores. Around its neck, embedded deep into the flesh, was a heavy, rusted iron collar. It was just a giant rat? Sarah whispered, hysterical with relief. No, Elias whispered, his blood running cold. Sarah, look at the chain. The chain didn't end. It went through the floorboards, fused into the very wood of the house. The rat hadn't been dragging the chain. The rat was tethered. It was bait. A sudden, frigid blast of air slammed the nursery door open. The smell of ancient rot billowed out. From the darkness, a sound emerged. Shh, clank. It was deeper, heavier. The floorboards groaned under a weight 10 times greater than the rat. The rat wasn't the ghost, Elias whispered. The rat was just the pet. The flashlight beam flickered as the entity stepped out of the nursery. It didn't walk, it unfolded. It was a nightmare of pale, translucent skin stretched over a frame far too long to be human. Thick, rusted chains were threaded through its collarbones and ribcage. The metal fused with necrotic flesh. Its face had no eyes, only deep, weeping pits of black bile. Its mouth was a jagged tear stitched shut with rusted wire. Run, Elias whispered. They bolted, but the house had changed. The stairs seemed to stretch into an impossible, twisting throat of darkness. Behind them, the entity began to sprint on all fours, its chains lashing against the walls like iron whips. They reached the first floor and burst into their mother's room. The bed was empty. In the center of the mattress sat a single heavy link of rusted iron. A low, wet thud sounded from the kitchen. They crept toward the doorway, finding their mother crouched in the center of the floor. The entity was draped over her like a tattered shroud, its spindly fingers gently stroking her hair. Her eyes were wide and vacant. "It's okay, children," she murmured, her voice sounding like it was coming from the bottom of a well. "The house isn't hungry anymore. It's full." The entity turned its head 180 degrees. The wire stitching its mouth together began to snap, one by one, with the sound of guitar strings breaking. "Let her go," Elias stepped forward, a tire iron trembling in his hand. "Take me instead." The creature let out a high-pitched, vibrating hum that shattered the windows. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, and as it reached out, the chains throughout the house, in the attic, behind the walls, under the floor, all tightened at once. "You don't understand," the mother whispered as she began to sink into the floorboards, the wood softening like quicksand. "It doesn't want our lives. It wants our time." A week later, the real estate agent sat in his office, his hands shaking as he lit a cigarette. There was a knock at the door. A young couple, looking tired and desperate, stood there holding a printout of the Harrow House listing. "The price is... It's real?" the young man asked. The agent looked at them, his eyes hollow. He thought of the Sterlings. He thought of the sounds he heard when he drove past the property at night. The sound of 3 distinct sets of chains dragging in perfect, rhythmic unison. "Yes," the agent said, his voice a dead rasp. "The house is a good one. It's in a good neighborhood, and you're getting it for almost nothing." He reached into his desk and pulled out a new set of keys. They were cold, they were heavy, and they were covered in rust.